I'm Paulina, and I'm living now in the south of Spain, in ℚ𝗏𝗏, in Andalusia. And I'm a yoga and meditation teacher. And me and my partner were starting a retreat center here in the south right now. And we have a little, well, not baby anymore, a toddler at the same time. I prepared a lot for the birth. I read a lot of books. I did a lot of yoga and meditation, and already for years I've been doing yoga and meditation, and yeah, I had a plan in mind and kind of like a vision and an idea, and I knew what I wanted more or less. But the birth itself, it started out a little bit traumatic because all of a sudden I started to bleed a lot in the night, and we called my midwife, and she said it's much more blood than normal. And I didn't expect to go to the hospital because the pregnancy was healthy, but she said we have to go to the hospital. So yeah, it was very stressful actually in the very beginning, because we didn't expect it, and it was all of a sudden in the night, and I kept losing blood, and it was really a lot, like these big cups of blood were just coming out of me. And I was just thinking the whole time, if the baby is fine, because we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. Yeah, so Floris was driving in the night on these crazy roads to the hospital. That took 1 hour, and then already the bleeding was less. And in the hospital they didn't know what it was exactly, and it didn't seem like it was very dangerous because they were very relaxed about it, and they said, oh, it's maybe just bleeding from the cervix. So then we said we want to do a home birth, and then we went back home. And yeah, the birth, the whole process from this stressful beginning to the end was 42 hours. I think if it didn't start with this like, oh my gosh, what is happening, probably it wouldn't be so intense in the beginning, because the contractions were not very intense in the beginning. Yeah, it was it was not as I envisioned the birth, because I read books about orgasmic birth and free birthing, and I thought like, yeah, I can just breathe through the contractions because I did so much yoga and so much meditation, and like, I got this. But yeah, it was it was like the hardest thing in the whole world. I know my friends told me like the pain is like you can't even explain it because you never felt something like that, and yeah, I can agree. I never felt something like that, so much so that at the very end I thought like, oh God, I'm never doing this again. Now I don't think like that, but in the beginning I thought like, oh my God, this was horrible. Not the fact that I had a baby, of course, that was the most beautiful thing, but the actual birth, it's like crazy. But I was at the same time very happy that we could do it at home, and we were living in a really beautiful place. So in that craziness and in that intensity, I had these moments of like, oh, thank God I am in nature, or thank God I have this. I wasn't in a birthing pool for very long. I was there maybe, I don't know, time was time was not really very relevant for me, but maybe an hour, 2 hours, I don't know. But this was also like a moment where, in that craziness and intensity and also desperation, I had like these moments to be like, okay. But yeah, maybe I'm also embarrassed to say that it was so hard because of maybe the years of yoga and meditation, there's some kind of embarrassment of admitting how hard it actually was and how painful it is. And even the word pain, because I was reading books about orgasmic birth or just books in general of how they say that it's good to, instead of saying pain or contraction, to say, I think, I don't remember, surges. Yeah, surges or waves. But yeah, at that moment I was just like, this is painful, it sucks, and even, swearing, and I thought I would just breathe through, and I was screaming, but actually it helped me so much to scream. So yeah, it was very intense. It was a very, very intense experience, and it was a little bit like a death, like, I'm so much crazy pain. It just feels like I'm gonna die and I can't do it anymore. So many times I was thinking and feeling like I can't, I can't, because like, how is it possible it's gonna get more strong and more painful? Yeah, so it's really like dying somehow. Somehow I always felt that giving birth at home is what I want. Actually, I had this also idea that I just want to give birth in the forest and by myself, even without my partner, and under the moon with the trees, like this really romantic idea. And then, also my partner was like, look, we need some kind of safety net. So we agreed to have like help, and I just felt that I would be more comfortable at home. I think that's the main thing. Just the comfort of just being there and being able to move my body as freely as possible, and maybe also express, like screaming if I have to. It wasn't a very big thought process. I didn't have to convince myself or think. It was just very natural. I just knew that I wanted to give birth at home. That's it. It was tricky because it was still COVID times a little bit, like the rules were getting much less, but you could not have more than one person with you in the hospital, so my midwife couldn't enter. And that was really not like, they were not very nice about it. They were very kind of mean with it. That was hard. Maybe they could have been nicer about it. And also I was bleeding and like standing there bleeding in like shock, and then they just said, okay, now line up and fill up some paperwork. and I was also a little bit shocked by this, because I was like in this state of shock and I needed help, and they were just like, okay, just wait in line. But I was very happy that my midwife was in the hospital with us, because our first baby, also Floris and I, were in shock, and she just kind of like took charge, talked to them, be like, look, she can't wait, and like, this is the situation. So I'm really happy that I had that support in the hospital, because I feel like without that, maybe it would have been more stressful even for me. But when we were like having the scans and everything, past that like first part of the hospital where you have to do the registration and everything, then they were very relaxed and actually quite open-minded, because we said we want to give birth at home, and they were not saying you can't or anything like that. So I felt a lot of acceptance afterwards for the decisions we wanted to make, and that made me more relaxed. Yeah, it was very important. He was like a rock that I could just hold on to, that I could scream into. I felt like it was really important for him just to kind of be like that mountain, or that stability, that pillar in the whole process. And I really, now looking back on it, I'm very grateful for that like silent, that silent stability that he brought. I needed that very much. I needed that. I mean, I feel now a lot of respect to all women and mothers, and I always like knew, okay, this is hard and stuff, but of course it's something else living it yourself. And I also, I don't know, I feel like it somehow, not also myself, but also to all women, sometimes underappreciated as the role of a mother. Yeah, like it's such a crazy process to be pregnant, to give birth, to breastfeed, and then on top of that still to try to lead a kind of normal life, being sleep deprived and everything. It's crazy. And then many women go back to work, and I have no idea how they do that. Already just living day to day is hard for me. So I just feel a lot of, I think, this like awe and appreciation for my own body, what it can do, and like Mother Nature, because I was, you know, born into this body that's part of nature, and also the animal kingdom, this connection to all animals, and somehow, yeah, just this a feeling of a big gratitude towards women and mothers, and what it really means, this respect of like what it really means to be a mother, and the like the big responsibility it is. So yeah, a lot of like respect to the feminine and to women and to the womb and creation in general. I think that's the biggest thing, respect. And yeah, I think just trust your own heart or intuition, because yeah, there's like so much power within us that I guess I didn't know was there as well until giving birth, the potential. Yeah, maybe just trusting in what we feel. I think that's really important. And like what we really want, because everyone is different and there's so many opinions out there, all kinds, from all sides, and it can get really confusing. And I know that for me, like reading all these books and people telling me things, and yeah, from all stories, not just one side. So, and I really had a strong intuitive feeling before, and I think that was for me the most important thing to take away. Like if I have a child again, like really to go into that more, into that feeling, like what do I want, what do I need really, rather than feeling insecure of my own intuition because of what other people say. Well, I was very scared to tell her that I was going to give a home birth, because I was scared she would put her fears on me. So I didn't tell her until the very end. And then I really told her, like, okay, you cannot say anything negative, you cannot like say anything at all. And I made like a whole thing, and then I told her, and then it was actually very good, and I felt free in telling her that. But I also felt very good in setting my boundaries and saying, like, you are not allowed to say these things to me. Yeah, but my mom is quite open-minded. She's kind of like a very young spirit. I always felt more like a sister than like a mother in a way. Yeah, and my own birth story, she was very young. So she was 22, she was in a new country where she didn't speak the language well, and she just, I mean, she never made it like it was very hard. She always was like, yeah, I got the epidural, and then it was fine. And so, yeah, the only thing that was a bit, I think, traumatizing for her, and I guess for me too, I don't remember it, but I mean, it must have some kind of impact, is that I was born with a fever, and then I had to be in hospital for 2 weeks without her, the first 2 weeks of my life. And then in a big room with many babies. So also that impacted me in my birth, and realizing how important it is to hold a baby and skin to skin, and the contact after the birth. And how even though our daughter is almost 20 months, and I still feel like she still wants hugs and stuff. So maybe because of this story with my mom, I'm really aware of like how important it is, the contact and the closeness and the warmth with such a small child, and how I really wanted to emphasize that with my own baby. So yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah. But yeah, my mom also helped 3 weeks after the birth, because my grandmother was there for 1 month after I was born, and my mom said, I want to be there to cook for you, clean up, and she was really doing that. Like the first 3 weeks it was just Floris and I, and then Floris had to work. And then, yeah, she was like full on cleaning, cooking, doing laundry. And it was so good to have that help. Maybe for Floris sometimes it was too much to have like the mother-in-law in the space all the time, because she's also super energetic. But for me, I never appreciated my mother as much as I did at that moment. I was so grateful just to have the laundry done, or the toilet clean, or whatever, or the shower, you know. And so grateful that when Amba cried, I can just put her in somebody else's arms. Yeah, so actually that was wonderful to have that kind of support. And I really saw her sincerity in it as well. How she really appreciated the support from her own mother and wanted so much to give that to me. She came out, it was like fire, because my yoni was just tearing at that moment, and it was like a big plop. And then it went from this like, ah, to seeing her and being completely calm and like still and peaceful. After all those hours of like craziness and madness, the moment I saw her, I felt like just like super peaceful and like normal. I didn't feel emotional or like, it was just like super calm and peace. Like she was on the mat, she fell on the mattress because we didn't talk about who's going to catch her. But yeah, nothing happened to her, it was not very far. And then like I knew right away, I just picked her up and put her in my arms, like as if I've done that 100 times before, but it just, there was no thought process. It was just like peace and quiet. Like the moment she came out and she was in my arms, like, yeah, like an instinct of, yeah, I like, just there's my baby. And it was also the moment we found out it was a girl, because we didn't want to know the gender until the birth. And so it was also this moment of like surprise. I didn't notice, maybe, I don't know, first few seconds or minutes, like I didn't notice, and then, oh wow, it's a girl. So that was also a nice surprise. But yeah, I think just a lot of peace after. Yeah.
The birth was very long, so it took almost 2 entire days. And in those 2 days, you just go through, I just felt like I went through the whole spectrum of life, like from like fear, and then feeling really challenged in the beginning when it didn't start very how we thought it would start. So there were moments of fear, but there was also like a lot of like strength that comes, like it's like the birth, it's really like I've never seen like life and death so close together, and to really feel the two people maybe I love the most, one that I don't know even if it will be a boy or a girl, like it's huge like wonderment, this surprise. And then Paulina, and it's like this moment of giving birth, but at the same time realizing that, especially with the challenges we were going through, like it's really like life and death coming really close together, and that's really intense. It brings up everything. It brings up fear, it brings up courage, it brings up intense love. I think the most difficult for us, or maybe there were 2 difficult parts I can recall. One in the beginning when it started with a lot of bleeding and just not knowing like what's going on, and then going to the hospital and really feeling like I don't want to be here. And one part is like kind of this safety rational mind that says like maybe you should stay, it's the safest place. And then just my gut feeling on my heart that says like, no, this is not a place. And I'm really happy at the end that we decided to leave the hospital. And not to say, like, I think there are moments where the hospital is really needed and can save lives, but in most cases, like, it's just not the environment where I would want to be for this one of the most special moments of my life or our life. So that was challenging. First the fear of what's going on, and then having to decide to stay in the hospital or to go home. And then also when the birth was already 1.5 days going on, and there was like very little progress, and I could see Paulina in so much pain, like I've never seen before, and there is this kind of helplessness about it. In a way, there's a lot you can do with just being there and with just presence, but on a practical level, there's almost nothing I could do, and that kind of helplessness, that's a challenge. When Amba was born, it feels like it's not going, little, and then all of a sudden, like, and it's like the whole universe is born. And just the moment to see her breathe, to see her alive, it's fantastic. It's so beautiful. I feel, most of all, just to be present. To be present, stay calm when things get challenging, and just to be there, because there's really not much I can do. Like, few times I try to give a little touch or something, and there are moments where that also helps, like a hug, but anything kind of manipulative in the process, it doesn't work, I think. So just being present and giving love.